Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. Ready for another deep dive? This time, we're taking a look at something you probably use every day.
Yeah, and it's something that a lot of people don't actually think that much about, but has a surprisingly interesting story behind it.
I'm talking about credit cards, of course.
Those little pieces of plastic we all carry around.
Exactly.
Well, but buckle up because their history, well, it's a wild ride of quirky inventions and some bold moves.
Okay, let's get into that. I'm all ears.
So rewind back in time, way back to like the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay, this is before credit cards, obviously. Right?
Way before. You wouldn't find plastic cards, no way.
So what did people do?
Well, imagine a world where charge coins were like a thing.
Charge coins. What, like some kind of fantasy money?
Kinda. They were these coins, some made of metal, some even celluloid.
Whoa, so like fancy old-timey tokens.
Yeah, exactly. Hotels and department stores would use them like their own little store credit system. Each coin would have the customer's account info like imprinted on it.
Wow. And so how did this evolve into the cards we know today?
So the charge coins eventually led to something called the Charga plate, which came out in 1928.
Okay, the Charga plate. Tell me more about that. What was it like?
Imagine like a metal card, almost like a dog tag, but for shopping. It had your info embossed on it.
Makes sense.
So this actually was a huge deal because it sped up record keeping and it cut down on errors.
Ah, I see. So both the charge coins and the Charga plate, they were really about simplifying things and building up that trust between businesses and customers.
Yeah.
So when did the idea come along of having like one card accepted by multiple merchants like we have today?
So that's where Diners Club comes in.
I've heard of that.
1950, they launched the first general purpose charge card.
Oh, wow. So that's like the real granddaddy of modern credit cards then.
Pretty much. Now you could dine at all kinds of restaurants and just pay later.
It's funny. It's almost like they invented that whole eat now, pay later thing that's so
Mhm.
popular nowadays.
Yeah, exactly, in a way. And it paved the way for the credit card boom.
The boom. Okay. So this brings us to the birth of the modern credit card, right?
Yep. 1958, Bank of America, they launched Bank AmeriCard.
Bank AmeriCard, the one that became Visa.
That's the one. And they launched this thing in Fresno, California.
Fresno. Why Fresno? Seems like a random place to start such a big thing.
They had their reasons. They had a ton of Bank of America customers there, so it made for a good testing ground.
Ah, so a strategic move.
Yep, they faced this classic, like, chicken and egg problem, you know?
Needed both the shoppers and the stores to be on board for it to work.
Exactly. So they just kind of flooded the market and hoped for the best. Mass-mailed Bank AmeriCards to, like, 60,000 residents in Fresno.
Whoa, that's a bold move.
It was. They even sent cards to people considered high risk, you know, to try and get things rolling.
But that probably caused some problems down the line, right?
Oh, yeah. Sending cards to folks deemed unemployable, well, let's just say that didn't age well, and the practice was actually outlawed by 1970.
It sounds kind of like the Wild West of credit cards.
It really was. But hey, it worked. Here we are decades later, swiping away.
That's true. So Bank AmeriCard is out there making waves, and then what?
The competition wasn't far behind. 1966, MasterCharge, now known as MasterCard, comes onto the scene.
Oh, so the credit card race is on.
And with competition comes innovation. By 1973, credit card systems went digital.
Computerized, huh?
Yep. And that really cut down on transaction times.
So a huge step forward. But I'm guessing going digital probably brought some new challenges too, right?
Of course, especially when it came to security. You got to remember, back then, payment terminals weren't always connected.
Ah, so verifying transactions must have been a pain.
Yeah, merchants had to rely on these, well, pretty cumbersome processes.
I can imagine. So in just a few decades, we went from those clunky charge coins to these complex computer systems. It's amazing how quickly things changed.
And all that paved the way for the modern credit cards we use today.
Packed with all sorts of tech and features. Speaking of features, what actually makes a credit card? Well, a credit card. It's more than just a piece of plastic, right?
Way more. First, there's the size, got to be standard, you know, so it can fit in all the machines. Most of them are made of that PVC plastic, and it all has to follow these specific international standards.
Okay, so it's not just any random piece of plastic.
Nope. Then there's the bank card number. You know, the one that's either printed or embossed on the card.
Ah, those numbers. I always wondered if they meant anything specific.
They do. So the first 6 digits, they tell you which bank issued the card. It's like the bank's unique fingerprint.
Wow, I had no idea.
Then you've got your individual account number, followed by a special check digit.
The check digit, what's that for?
That's for security. It helps make sure the card number is legit.
So my credit card number is like a little coded message.
Exactly. It's all designed to make those transactions smooth and, most importantly, secure.
And of course, we can't forget about all those security features like those magnetic stripes, the EMV chips, and those holograms that always catch the light.
Oh, yeah, those shiny holograms, they add an extra layer of security to help prevent counterfeiting.
It's incredible how much technology they pack into such a small card.
It really is.
But before we get into how all this works, like behind the scenes, when you swipe or tap, let's take a quick pause. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying our credit card deep dive here on Tell Me More, so you don't miss the rest. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about all the cool tech packed into a credit card.
Yeah, but have you ever wondered, like, how does it actually work when you swipe or tap? It's kind of like magic, you know?
Totally. You swipe this little piece of plastic and boom, you're buying things.
It's not magic. It's really this carefully orchestrated dance between, like, you, the cardholder, the merchant, and the banks involved.
So it's more of a team effort than just like me and my card.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. So let's say you're buying something at a store, right?
Okay, picture this. I'm at the checkout counter.
You slide or tap your card, and that little action kicks off this whole chain reaction.
Okay, so the machine's reading my card, then what?
The merchant's bank, they contact your bank basically to check you out. They want to make sure you have enough credit and that the card's not, like, stolen or anything.
So it's like a super fast background check happening in seconds.
Exactly. If everything checks out, your bank sends back an approval code and bam, you're good to go.
And I thought seeing that approved message was the end of it.
Oh, no, that's just the beginning. There's a whole behind-the-scenes crew working hard to make sure everything runs smoothly.
So it's not just me, the cashier, and the card reader.
Nope. It's like a relay race. All your purchase info, it gets bundled up with other transactions and sent off to the merchant's bank.
Okay, and then where does it go?
From there, it goes to the credit card network. You know, the big guys like Visa or MasterCard.
Huh? So my purchase is literally traveling the world before I even get my shopping bag.
In a way, yeah. And finally, the network settles up all the accounts, moving money between the banks. It's a whole system built to move money fast and securely.
That's crazy. It's like a whole financial ecosystem I never even thought about, just humming along every time I buy something. It's mind-blowing. But what happens when things go wrong? Like, what if someone steals my card, or I get charged for something I didn't buy?
Ah, good question. That's where chargebacks come in. Think of it as your safety net.
Like a get-out-of-jail-free card for bad purchases.
Well, kind of. If you spot something fishy on your statement, you can call up your bank and dispute it.
So they investigate it.
Yep. And if they agree it's fraudulent, they'll reverse the charge.
That's good to know. So there's a system in place to protect us from those bad actors out there.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that chargebacks, they can be a hassle for merchants too. They can lose money and even face penalties if they get too many disputes.
Oh, right. I didn't think about that.
Well,
So it's got to be a balancing act, right? Protecting the consumer, but also being fair to businesses.
for sure. And speaking of balance, let's talk about the different types of credit cards out there, because they're not all the same, you know?
This is where I get lost.
Yeah.
There are so many different cards with all these different perks and interest rates. It's overwhelming.
I hear you. Okay, so let's start with business credit cards. These are specifically for, well, businesses.
Makes sense. So like company expenses and stuff.
Yeah, and they often come with perks geared towards businesses, you know, things like travel rewards or points you can use for office supplies.
It's like a special superpower for entrepreneurs, huh?
You could say that. Then we've got secured credit cards.
Secured cards, remind me what those are again.
Those are great if you're new to credit, or maybe your credit score needs a little boost.
So if my credit score is kind of like bruised, this is like the rehab program to get it back in shape.
Perfect analogy. With secured cards, you put down a deposit, kind of like collateral, and that minimizes the risk for the bank.
Makes sense. So you can prove that you're responsible with credit.
Exactly. Now, what about those prepaid cards you see everywhere?
Those are considered credit cards.
They are, but they're a little different. You load them with a set amount of money, kind of like a gift card.
Oh, I see. So it's like training wheels for using credit.
You got it. And then, of course, we have the classic, the regular unsecured credit cards.
The ones most of us probably use.
Yep. And these come with a whole smorgasbord of benefits. Rewards programs, travel insurance, purchase protection. It all depends on the card and how much you use it.
Okay, so we've got our lineup. Business, secured, prepaid, and good old unsecured. What are the big advantages of using credit cards in general?
Well, first off, they're just so convenient. You can buy things online, pay bills automatically. It's super easy.
And you don't have to carry around a bunch of cash,
Right. Plus, they give you that short-term loan so you can buy now and pay later.
which can be helpful in a pinch. And let's not forget about those tempting rewards programs.
Oh, yeah, those are definitely a big draw. Cash back, points for travel, even discounts on things you buy every day.
It can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's got to be some downsides to using credit cards, too. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
You're telling me. I think the biggest drawback is the potential for debt. It's easy to get caught up in the convenience and rewards and overspend.
Yeah, it's like a siren song luring you in.
And before you know it, you're swimming in high-interest charges.
So credit cards can be a slippery slope if you're not careful.
Definitely. You got to be responsible, track your spending, and avoid going overboard just to chase those rewards.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yeah,
Enjoying the perks, but staying in control of your finances.
absolutely. Now, switching gears for a second. Did you know that even some of the biggest tech companies out there, like Google and Cisco, they were actually funded using credit cards?
Wait, really? Those companies, I thought they all started with, like, millions in investments, not plastic.
It's true. The founders maxed out their credit cards, took huge risks to buy equipment and get things running.
That's incredible. It just shows you the power of credit when it's used strategically.
It's inspiring, right? But let's be real, most of us aren't starting the next Google. What about those cashback programs? Are those too good to be true?
Yeah, those cashback offers sound amazing, but how do they actually work?
So they give you a percentage of your spending back, either as a statement credit or a direct deposit.
Sounds pretty sweet. So win-win for the cardholder and the issuer, right?
Well, not always. Some folks argue that these programs lead to higher merchant fees, which can actually drive up prices for everyone.
Ah, so there's a hidden cost to those rewards.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's definitely a complex issue. Now, let's talk about something super important. Credit card security.
Oh, good point. With all the data breaches and scams these days, it's hard to know how to protect yourself.
Keeping your credit card info safe is a multi-pronged approach. You got to think physical and digital security.
Okay, give me some tips. How do I build that fortress around my financial info?
First things first. Never leave your card unattended. And be super careful about giving out your card details over the phone or on websites you don't trust.
So basic common sense stuff.
Right. And always look for those HTTPS and padlock icons in your browser's address bar. That tells you the site's secure.
Oh yeah, I always look for that.
Good. You also want to shred those old credit card statements and keep a close eye on your accounts for any weird activity.
So it's like being a detective with my own finances.
Exactly. And with online shopping being so huge now, you really got to be aware of phishing attempts. If an email or website seems off or they're asking for personal info you wouldn't normally give, trust your instincts and just walk away.
It's better to be safe than sorry. Now, all those fancy security features we talked about before, do they actually help prevent fraud?
Absolutely. EMV chips, contactless payments, they add those extra layers of protection.
So it's like a constant game of cat and mouse between the good guys and the bad guys, with technology always trying to stay one step ahead.
Pretty much. And then there's something called the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, or PCI DSS. Ever heard of that?
Can't say I have. What is it?
It's like a set of rules that all merchants have to follow to protect cardholder data. It's like having a security watchdog overlooking everything.
So it's not just up to me to be careful, but the businesses have to play their part too.
Exactly. Everyone in the system has a role to play. And did you know that merchants can even make a code 10 call if they suspect a fraudulent transaction is happening right then and there?
A code 10 call. Sounds intense.
It is. They basically call the card issuer directly and report the suspicious activity. It's a way to stop fraud before it even happens.
Wow. So there are a lot of safeguards in place. That's reassuring.
It is. It takes a village, right? Even in the world of finance.
This has been a wild ride.
Yeah.
We've gone from clunky charge coins to these super sophisticated systems. It's mind-boggling.
And we've only just scratched the surface. The world of credit cards, it's vast and constantly evolving. There's always something new popping up.
Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we need to take a quick break. Be sure to stick with us as we explore even more about credit cards on Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast.
Oh.
It's incredible to think how far credit cards have come. We started with those old charge coins, and now look at us.
It really makes you wonder, what's next for these little pieces of plastic?
Right. I mean, are credit cards even going to be around in like 10 years?
Well, things are changing fast, that's for sure.
Like with all these digital currencies popping up,
Yeah, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all those.
they're getting more popular and everyone's talking about faster, cheaper transactions.
And don't forget about those mobile payment apps.
Oh, right. Apple Pay, Google Pay, all those. They're making it so easy to pay with just your phone.
It's fascinating to watch how technology and finance are kind of blending together like this.
It feels like we're on the edge of a whole new era of payments.
I think so.
So will credit cards go extinct or will they, I don't know, evolve?
I think they'll adapt. I mean, they've already been through some pretty big changes.
Yeah, like going from magnetic stripes to those EMV chips.
Exactly. And then the whole online shopping explosion, they've managed to keep up so far.
True. But how can they fit into this new world of, like, all digital, all mobile, everything?
Well, we're already seeing some cool stuff happening.
Like what?
Some issuers are putting contactless payment tech right into the cards.
Oh, yeah, those tap-to-pay things. Those are super convenient.
And some are even teaming up with the mobile payment platforms so you can use your card through your digital wallet.
So they're not fighting against the new tech, but joining it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're becoming part of this bigger digital ecosystem.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what else? What might the future hold for these cards?
Well, imagine this, your credit card becomes like more than just a way to pay.
Okay, I'm listening.
It could help you budget your money, track your spending, even earn rewards that are like totally personalized to you.
Wow, that sounds pretty futuristic.
Right. Like it could analyze your spending habits, find you better deals, maybe even give you tips on how to improve your credit score.
Like a personal financial assistant.
Exactly.
It's wild to think how far we've come. From those simple charge coins to all this.
It really is.
But, with all this new stuff, we can't forget the basics.
Right.
We still got to be careful about security and be smart about how we use our credit.
Couldn't agree more.
Convenience and all that, it's great.
Sure.
But it shouldn't come at the expense of being responsible. Right?
For sure.
Like we talked about before, it's all about finding that balance.
Absolutely. And being informed is key.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our finances.
You got it.
Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of credit cards. From their surprising history to the high-tech future, it's been quite a journey.
It has.
We hope you learned something new and maybe even got a little inspired to keep exploring the world of finance.
And to all our listeners out there, stay curious, ask questions, and thanks for joining us on Tell Me More Stories Told Us podcast.